See, Mr. Gitz, most people never have to face the fact. At the right time, in the right place, they're capable of anything.
What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from MtG, the place down there. We got decks and we got a really cool rogue brew for you today. Something I did not expect to be super awesome. I just thought it'd be fun when I started. It is a lot of fun and it is super awesome. This is Tragic Arrogance, Orzhov style, and let's go ahead and take a look at it because it is weird and awesome and cool, and let's do it. We're playing 3 copies of Hangerback Walker, and not just because it's in vogue. I know it's a really popular card right now and everyone's probably already getting a little tired of Hangerback Walker, but we have even more of a reason to play it than some decks. It turns out that there are a couple of ways that this can benefit us. Obviously, we can sacrifice it to Tragic Arrogance and get a bunch of flyers. Another cool thing about it is that if we keep it, either because it's the artifact that we keep or because it's the creature that we keep, this will put them in a position where even if they draw removal, then it doesn't really help them that much. We welcome the removal of this card all day long. 4 copies. Get ready for it. 4 copies of Rune Servitor here. Don't click away. Lots of reasons to play this. First of all, if it does die, which it will trade very often with aggro creatures. 2 power for 2 mana with a fair upside. Yeah, it's not bad at all. So you trade, draw the card. Or if you sacrifice this to Tragic Arrogance, then you get to draw a card when you play Tragic Arrogance. That's pretty cool. Another cool thing is that when you play Tragic Arrogance and have this and Hangerback, you can then choose to get rid of your Hangerback. There's a problem with Tragic Arrogance where if you're trying to get rid of your Hangerback, but it's the only artifact, you have to choose it as your artifact. So it stays on the board, which is usually just fine. It's the good kind of problem to have. But with Rune Servitor, you can choose to leave the Servitor in play if that's what you want to do, and then sacrifice the Walker to get a bunch of value out of Thopters. So there's that ability to do that too. I think there's a lot of good things about Rune Servitor, and the reason I'm going on about it is I'm sure some people have recoiled at the inclusion of this card, but it's actually a little better than I even thought it would be, and it just got so many good synergies that we're playing it. 2 copies of Sultai Emissary, which is also kind of weird, but you can see why we're doing it, right? I mean, what we're doing here, if you haven't been able to tell the trend, is that we get value off of our dudes dying, especially, with Tragic Arrogance, to ensure that they die, and we'll get value off of them. Especially creatures, we get a manifest off the top of our library here. There's other things. Hangerback Walker makes creatures when it dies, and Rune Servitor. We can ensure that with these cards that we get all the value off of our own casting of Tragic Arrogance, put ourselves in a great position once we play that card. And, things like Sultai Emissary and Rune Servitor, we don't have to have Tragic Arrogance to make them okay. I mean, we can block, trade, or just chump against aggro and other decks and get value out of it. Either draw the card or get another creature, which will then block again. So this really helps us out in the early game, get us to that 5th turn and beyond, so that we can Tragic Arrogance and make it profitable. 2 copies of Dutiful Attendant, lots of weird stuff in the deck. The reason this is in the deck, by the way, is that the trigger works like this. If it dies to mass removal at the same time, as other creatures, then it can bring one of those creatures back from the graveyard. So if we sacrifice all of our dudes, save for 1, to Tragic Arrogance at the same time, we'll be able to bring back one of those dudes when his ability resolves. So that's really, really good, again, assuring that we get insane value out of the casting of that card. Not only that, but again, this chump blocks really, really well, able to get us into the later turns, which is where we want to be, 5th, 6th turn, so we can get a lot of value off of Tragic Arrogance. I mean, this is good in the early game, assuming, 2nd turn we play Rune Servitor, 3rd turn we play this. If we block and the Servitor dies, that's totally fine. We don't care about that. And a situation in combat, by the way, where both Rune Servitor and this die at the same time, same thing goes with Sultai Emissary, then we'll be able to, draw the card from Rune Servitor or manifest the thing from Sultai Emissary. Dutiful Attendant and this, the other card, go to the graveyard at the same time. And Dutiful Attendant's ability resolves. There's just so much to get out. His ability resolves and we're able to return the Servitor or the Emissary back to our hand. So there's a lot of really cool synergies with Attendant and a lot of the stuff that we're playing in the deck. And again, if we Tragic Arrogance with this on the board, we're guaranteed to get another creature back from the graveyard. So Dutiful Attendant's really, really good. 2 copies of Liliana in this deck. Now, she works sort of the opposite of the Dutiful Attendant. People have asked about this. I've noticed there's a lot of questions. If she goes to the graveyard at the same time as other creatures due to mass removal, she doesn't get to flip and become a Planeswalker. She'll be in the graveyard by the time her ability resolves, so she can't flip. So it works pretty much the exact opposite way. But we've got a lot of things that make that negative X of hers really, really cool. And obviously, a lot of our creatures will die in combat because we just want to chump with them anyway. You know, Rune Servitor, Sultai Emissary, even Dutiful Attendant. These are all creatures that we don't really care if they die. We want to chump with them. That's totally fine. We get value when they do chump and die, or trade even. And so with Liliana, we can easily flip her and then get those cards back for more value. Not only that, but we can discard and make them discard. We don't care that much. And all of our creatures have awesome value once we ultimate her. You know, obviously, any creature that goes to the graveyard gives us some amount of value, and then they just pop right back to our hand at the beginning of the next end step. So just everything she does is great. 3 copies of Grim Haruspex, one of the all-stars in the deck. If you Tragic Arrogance with a few guys out, you pick Grim Haruspex as the one guy that stays in play, you're drawing some cards, buddy. It totally happens. It's, if Rune Servitor and an Emissary, say, go to the graveyard, it just gets ridiculous. You draw like 2 cards, another card off the Servitor, you get a Manifest, your Grim Haruspex stays in play. It helps you draw all those cards. So just, Haruspex is insane. There's been times where I've drawn 3 or 4 cards off of this thing after Tragic Arrogance. And notice that we're really resilient to mass removal ourselves. Now, obviously, if they play in hostilities, we won't get to draw all the cards because it'll go to the graveyard at the same time as the other creatures. But a lot of the things that we're doing in this deck make us resilient to mass removal. Dutiful Attendant is a great example. Sultai Emissary, another example. We're conservative. We get some value out of mass removal. So, that's one thing to consider. Languish is a huge card right now. We still see Crux of Fate, A lot of stuff that we see in hostility is probably going to get better after rotation. So this is really good against all of those spells. 2 copies of Nantuko Husk. Again, tricks. He's in a lot of things, and you can't blame him. Helps Liliana flip for what it's worth. And, we have ways of getting our dudes back with like Dutiful Attendant and Liliana herself. So Nantuko Husk generates a lot of value in the deck. 2 copies of, this is weird, Blood Curse Knight. But again, just like Nantuko Husk, there are ways that we can make this really, really, really good. And I'll get to them in just a moment. But aside, before we move on, you may have noticed we're playing an awful lot of creatures at 3 mana. That's not bad at all. That can assure, in a lot of situations, that especially against, smaller decks, which are very popular right now, aggro-based decks, that we'll be able to keep something better than them. They have an abundance of 1 and 2 cost creatures. We have an abundance of 3 cost creatures. So we sort of outclass them at a certain point. And once we can Tragic Arrogance and clear the board, then we're able to sort of hold that point a little bit better, just because our creatures are slightly more powerful than theirs in a lot of instances. So that's one reason to play so many 3-mana guys. Blood Curse Knight, again, he has tricks, and I'll get to them very momentarily. Might as well go ahead and tell you what we're doing and why he's so good in this deck. But to do that, I have to move on to the enchantments. We're playing 6 enchantments in the main deck here, 2 of which are Grasp of the Hieromancer. A lot of people talking about this card lately. It's gotten some buzz. People have good things to say, and I can't blame them. It has specific tricks in this deck, though. Due to Tragic Arrogance, we can keep an enchantment in play. So if we keep the creature that this is enchanted to in play, then sure, they may get to keep a creature, but as soon as we swing in, we can tap it down, which is super sweet. Imagine a scenario which has happened in testing more than once, where we're able to sacrifice our dudes to Nantuko Husk with a Grasp of the Hieromancer on them, and then Tragic Arrogance, removing all but one of their creatures. Our Nantuko Husk is a huge boost from all the creatures we just sacrificed to it. We can swing in basically unblockable because we can tap their dude down. That's just a really, really cool scenario, and the same thing with Blood Curse Knight, by the way. If we have a Grasp of the Hieromancer on Blood Curse Knight, then he can essentially do 5 lifelink damage unblockable, which can really, really swing the game in your favor. Now, Nantuko Husk sounds more bombastic, sure, but Blood Curse Knight is sort of more reliable in that situation. A lot of times you'd rather do a guaranteed 5 lifelink damage. That's just a 10-point lifelink is ridiculous. So Grasp of the Hieromancer is really good in this deck, even if you're not playing Tragic Arrogance, because it allows you to do a lot of cool things with your dudes that you want to get in unblocked. Always takes out a blocker and makes your dude bigger. Good card. The other copy of enchantment we're playing 4 copies of Pacifism for a similar reason. This is just straight up removal. And with Tragic Arrogance, the trick is that they're 1 creature and the 1 enchantment. The 1 enchantment we keep and the 1 creature they keep is the creature that has pacifism on it. So, and with Blood Curse Knight, we control an enchantment. We control pacifism, so we're able to swing in for an unblockable 4, lifelink damage. That's really, really good too. And pacifism is straight up removal. I want to play some amount of enchantments in the deck. I did consider Demonic Pact and Citadel Siege for that matter, but didn't play either of them. I feel like these were really low on the curve, which we need. We need lower end cards so that we can, survive until the fifth turn. And these are sort of Grasp of the Hieromancer's kind of removal when we swing in. Just gets rid of a blocker. But pacifism is straight up removal and is reliable and really, really good. And we get to keep it when we Tragic Arrogance. So I think these are decent enchantments to play. 7 non-creature, non-enchantment, non-planeswalker spells. 7 other spells in the deck. We are playing 2 planeswalkers. You probably guessed what it is. But in any case, we're playing 2 copies of Duress, 1 copy of Ultimate Price, and 4 copies of Tragic Arrogance, because 4 copies of Tragic Arrogance. Ultimate Price was a 2-of for most of the deck's life cycle, but I dropped it down to 1 because we have a lot of ways of surviving the early game. We didn't need Ultimate Price as much as I thought we would. And Ultimate Price will lose some value once October hits, and we lose a lot of important monocolored creatures in the format. There will still be a lot of important ones, but Courser, Crewfix, Goblin Rabblemaster, and a lot of other important targets. We'll leave the format, and we'll get Eldrazi, which are colorless, and will seem to be a little more abundant than we first thought. There were smaller sort of Eldrazi creatures. So Ultimate Price just won't have the same sway that it has once rotation hits. Duress will always be good, however, and Tragic Arrogance we have to play 4 copies of. We're playing 2 Planeswalkers in the deck. You've probably guessed it. 2 copies of 2. 2 copies of 2. Sorin, Solemn Visitor. Now this does a lot of cool things if we keep this as our only Planeswalker, which obviously we can keep Liliana too a lot of the time, but we keep this as our only Planeswalker, we can instantly put out another creature with it if that's what we want to do. And we are playing 20 creatures in the deck, which makes his +1 ability pretty darn relevant, especially considering a lot of our creatures are sort of lower in the power stat, and this gives them a great buff. And lifelink is really good when you got like Nantuko Husk running around in here. So, and Hangerback Walker. There's just so many good things that Sorin does in this deck for you. And that ultimate ain't half bad either. So that is the main deck. Here are the lands right here. This is pretty cut and dry, I would say. Probably not too much speculation here. I was playing Murderous Cut, and so I was playing Evolving Wilds, but eventually Murderous Cut left the deck, and so did Evolving Wilds. But this is pretty easy to make, I think, here, this mana base. Here are your power rankings. That's a fairly high synergy figure, and a fairly low power ranking altogether. But I think that this is, these are fair power stats. This is about where we want to be. Final score, by the way, of 56, which is higher than I thought this would be when I first started making it. I figured it'd be like right around a 50, but this is better than I thought, and I had to bring this to you because I think this is actually a pretty competitive deck with a lot of really cool things going for it. Now, there's some pretty looked down upon cards here. Obviously, we're playing Dutiful Attendant, Sultai Emissary, Rune Servitor, the Blood Curse Knight. There's some stuff in here that's really, really off the wall, but this is the place for it. We really, really get a lot of value out of these funky, weird-looking cards in this deck, and it does exactly what we want to do. If we can make it to that 5th turn, which a lot of these cards allow us to do exactly that fairly comfortably. Sultai Emissary is especially good, by the way, just letting us chump block twice, and we can play it on the 2nd turn. On the play, that is especially good. So we can make it to that 5th turn in Tragic Arrogance and reset the board an awful lot of the time. And we've got decent removal in tools like Pacifism. Grasp of the Hieromancer has we have a lot of tricks with that. And we satisfy every requirement on Tragic Arrogance some of the time. We can keep a Planeswalker and an artifact and a creature and an enchantment. So there's so many cool things that I love about this deck. I've always loved Orzhov, but this is probably my favorite deck to play, just to play in the last like 3 or 4 months, you guys. I really, really like this. Let me know what you think about it. Please try and make this. I know Hangerback and Liliana are fairly expensive, but you could probably mix and match, put in more copies of Dutiful Attendant, or something I thought of, again, with Citadel Siege. I thought of Dead Bridge Shaman in this deck. That would be okay. There are definitely a few things you could play if you wanted to be on the more budget end of it, and if you wanted to play budget, you could build this deck for like 25 bucks pretty comfortably. So a lot of things going for it. I like it a lot. Here's what's next. I'm going to have to ask you guys to rep. It's going to either be Jund or Teamer. Now, I know that these are both very, very popular deck archetypes, very popular guilds right now. I'm pretty sure I know which one's going to get it, but I'm rooting for both because I love both of them a lot. Jund and Teamer are two of my favorite all-time to play. So, you want me to do Jund? You want me to do Teamer? Which one's it going to be? And we've got a lot of other deck techs we're getting to. Somebody reminded me about Mono Red Dragons. I'm going to do that. Mono Red Aggro post-rotation. Going to do that. Going to probably try and do a Cynic Flash thing here soon. So lots of stuff coming up. Stick with us. I am Dev from MtG. If you enjoyed the content, please do us a solid. Like, share, comment, subscribe. We're quickly growing at this point, and I really appreciate that. Not a day goes by where someone's like, I just stumbled on your channel. You guys are really good. Thank you for all of that support. Really, it means a lot to us. Again, I'm Dev from that place that you apparently like. That means a lot to us. That's really cool. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, my wizards.